That's our aim.
So, Jimmy.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming here at relatively short notice. Daniel Herbert and Nick Stiles with us this morning. A bit of housekeeping for everybody who can turn their phones on. We're just going to have a press conference in this room, and then we'll move to the QRU deck for images, vision opportunities, one-on-ones afterwards. Daniel's going to say a few words about the appointment, and then we'll open the press conference to questions from the floor. So, Daniel, over to you.
Thanks, Phil. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Ballymore House. Very pleased today to make the announcement that Nick Stiles will be the St.George Queensland Reds for the next 2 seasons, and happy to now take any questions.
Stiles, I guess, first up, how excited are you to take on the job and how big a job is it?
Jimmy, obviously very humbled and very honoured to lead this state forward. As you know, and people who know me well, what this team deeply means to me, and to have the honour to help drive this side forward to improve and to get back to being a strong and successful side again is something that I'm very lucky to have.
I guess the follow-up would be, you have been part of the operation for a couple of years now. What's going to be different? That's a question people are going to be asking on a pretty major scale. What can you do that you haven't already?
Pretty easy answer to that, Jimmy, is that I'll be in charge. At the end of the day, the head coach is the one that makes the decisions and ticks off on things. If you look back on the areas that I've been involved in now through the last 6 years at Super Rugby, I've been successful. I've driven a culture within the team around the forward pack in particular. Of achieving results, and now I get the opportunity to take that forward and drive the team standards and the team results. You look at the NRC, fantastic tool for me to step up and be the man in charge. And in that process, you got to test things out, and I was very proud of what we achieved at the NRC, and now I get that chance to take that to Super Rugby level.
What changes will you bring then, Nick?
Oh, mate, very simply, you look at on-field results. At the end of the day, that's what we need to improve on. Very simple for me. You've got to start with an individual skill focus. The way we've attacked, the way we've played rugby, our standards around the skills haven't been good enough. And no matter what shape you have in your attacking shapes, no matter your defensive systems, you still have to work on those skills. So it's an area that we'll go back and focus very intently on, and then that leads you to be able to play rugby at a greater standard.
On that, Stiles, the ARU's made a new appointment this week with their skills coach. Do you expect him to have some sort of role here, I guess?
Yeah, Vince, really pleasing appointment for Australian rugby. You've only got to look at, the last few rounds of Super Rugby and see how dominant the Kiwis have been against both the Australian sides and South African teams. And to have Mick Byrne on board from the Australian level down, who's had such an influence in the New Zealand style of play and the New Zealand skills is going to be important. I first spoke to Mick Byrne a couple of months ago. We had a good chat in the stands here watching the Wallabies train, and from that it was really pleasing to talk to him and discover that we've got very similar passions around that individual skill focus, and having Mick on board and based here at Ballymore is going to be a great asset to have.
Nick, what did you learn from that you got thrust into sort of the co-coaching role this year? What do you take out of that this season that you can apply to your coaching?
Listen, the co-coaching is something that was difficult. At the end of the day, Jimmy asked me before about what was going to be different. Well, now being the head coach, you get to make individual decisions and put my imprint on the team moving forward. But the ability to, what we've learned this year, to manage situations, obviously not good enough with on-field results, but the excitement that I've got as a head coach moving forward into 2017 with our playing roster is something that excites me.
Nick, you mentioned their results is something on-field results what you're going to be pushing for So do you have any hard goals yet in terms of where you'd like the Reds to finish next year?
Yeah, hard goals. Simply, I think you look at how the conference system's set up in Super Rugby, and the most important thing for us next year is we win our conference. If you do that, it means you're playing finals football, and that's what we're here to do.
Dan, did you talk to the Wallaby coach throughout the process, and did he have any sort of input into the appointment?
Yeah, the ARU in general, I see them as a valuable resource as well as a governing body, and certainly someone like Nick coming through, I'd always been keen. Checker's a very good coach. He's one of the few in the world that has had success wherever he's been, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, club, provincial and national. So he's clearly a very good coach, and I was keen for us to, certainly looking at some of the other states who've had the benefit of Stephen Larkin working with him, Nathan Gray working with him. I was very keen for our coaches to have access to Michael because he's a very good coach. And talking to him, once it was clear that we were going to go the way that we did, I asked him if he would support Nick in a mentorship, and pleasingly he was up for however we'd like to approach that. He'd like to ensure Nick's success as a long-term coach and give him access to however that plans to be.
I suppose based on what we've been able to ascertain, a number of test level coaches who are in the mix. Would you care to elaborate on some names who the other candidates were? And if you don't give us any names, can you tell us why Nick Stiles, who hasn't coached test football, would be a better coach than blokes who have coached test football?
Yeah, all of the applicants, Jim, applied in confidence, so I'm not going to breach that confidence. It's their livelihood. But what I can say is there was some very good quality coaches to choose from. In terms of the thoroughness of the process, we wanted to make sure that we got a real good read on every one of those shortlisted candidates. So there was a lot of research gone into each and every one of those, and I feel confident that we got a fix on each and every one of those in terms of who would be the best fit for our group going forward, for this group in 2017, the player list that will be there in 2017. I guess what pushed it Nick's way was a couple of things. He demonstrated through his coaching the ability to improve players, and I think that's a really important aspect. With his expertise within the areas that he is an expert in, he's developed and improved players. When given the opportunity to lead the program, he's done that very well. He's led strongly, and he's created an environment that the players enjoyed and thrived in, and it was a winning environment. He was able to articulate to the panel and to the board a clear vision as to how he will drive a standards-based culture, how he'll develop a skills platform that over time will reap rewards. And lastly, he's emotionally invested. He bleeds red, and he's a product of our pathway, and this is a reward for ticking the boxes all along that pathway.
Dan, you got your coach now. Does Operation Bring Back Play now in the full gear, full swing?
Oh, look, we've been, and I'll let Nick talk to this as well, but we've been talking to Quade for some time, and I've spoken publicly, which I won't often do, about our desire to get Quade back, because I think similarly to Nick, Quade's emotionally invested in this place. He has been since the age of 14. He loves it, and we'd like to see him back here, but he wants to be in the right environment, and he wants to know who the coach was going to be. He'll now know, but we've been keeping in contact with him, and should he want to come back, we've always left that door open, and we think he'd really round out our team list very well for 2017 if he did.
What do you think Nick's appointment does for that endeavour in terms of bringing Quade? Does it strengthen it?
Oh, I think it does. I mean, he went on the record during the week and endorsed Nick. So I think there's obviously a good relationship, and that was clear through his endorsement, but also in my private conversations with Nick, where Nick has kept in contact with Quade during his time in France.
Stiles, is that as good as done, or is Quade waiting to see who you'll make as your attack?
No, Vince, listen, firstly, be really clear. There's no contract signed. He hasn't agreed to come to the Reds, so just be clear with that. I'd like to think after, if you've been following his social tweets, his holiday he had through Santorini and the UK, he'll be really refreshed to make a clear decision. And as Daniel said, listen, I've got a good relationship with Quade. He's expressed numerous times, mate, he's a Queensland Red. He's passionate about the place, and hopefully we can get that sorted moving forward.
Herbie, what about the rest of the farm? Any chance of Will, or even think you might have
Look, not for 2017. Right now, we're getting close to finalising our player list, and that will be done in the coming weeks. You never say never, and guys who have done for this place what they've done, you'd always consider if they approached you and if there was a way to make it work. But it's not about just sort of rewinding the clock. We have to move forward, and there are some players who can do both. But it's not about an operation of part of the list strategy is about getting Queenslanders who have left back here, who are motivated to make a difference to this place. Now, that is part of an overarching list strategy, but it's not all and sundry. And it's at a time and place and whether we're actually in market for someone with their skills base. But look, we wouldn't say never to either of those two players or others.
Nick, you get some good players obviously next season with the Wallaby captain, maybe Quay, you get hopefully Kane gets in the park. Does that instantly raise the expectations for when you step in as a coach?
Well, I hope so. You want quality footballers on the field for you, and as you mentioned, the ability that we've done by bringing in George Smith, one of the most capped Super Rugby players in Australian history, bringing Stephen Moore, the most capped Australian player in Super Rugby history. You're bringing in absolute wealth of experience on field, but also experience off field. And Daniel and myself, we were very lucky. We played for the Wallabies. Daniel a lot more than me, unfortunately, but we played for the Wallabies back when they were successful. Daniel won a World Cup. I was part of Tri Nations, Bledisloe's, and you saw how John Eales's, George Gregan's operated. And for us to bring in players of that calibre in George Smith, Stephen Moore, potentially Quade, will just round our experience out with some really good knowledge and ability.
Even now as the public face and the man at the top, I suppose, what do you say to the fans moving forward that haven't had much to cheer about the last 2 seasons?
Oh, listen, mate, I'm the first one to admit, if you'd seen any of my press conferences throughout the year, it's been something that's been disappointing with our results. Very passionate about Queensland. I want to see us winning rugby games. Important that when we rock up to Suncorp, in particular, that we're there and we play a really hard style of football, that the fan can leave the stadium knowing that that's Queensland rugby. History shows when Queensland's been great, you've had a strong forward pack, you've had a team that played for each other, and you had a team that had some good attacking flair about them, and I'm sure moving forward that's what our fans going to see.
Herbie, how big a task do you think it is to sell this vision to Queensland fans who really, when you look at a crowd of maybe 14,000 in the last game, got dished up a pretty ordinary game. How much do you have to reconnect with the fans to sell something that they might see as the same as this year, in terms of the coaching place?
Oh, look, I'd say it's very different. I mean, Nick touched on before. I've seen it up close and personal. Once you lead a program, you're held accountable. We can't hold either Nick or Matt accountable for the program this year, in our view. And that was part of the rationale behind the decision. We didn't think it was fair for them to inherit a program 5 months into a year. So, look, that I think in terms of our job is to sell hope, and I think with the player list that we've developed, and that's been something that we've been working on very, very hard for the last 12 months, because the two important aspects are your playing list and then your coaching combination. And it's not about one person; it's about the combination. And Nick and myself and others, we've got some rugby-specific people on our board who will help us to make sure that we put together a really good coaching combination. Over the next 12, 24 months, we'll make sure that we attract the best there, because that's our obligation to the playing group as well, is to provide that environment where they can exceed. We want to create Wallabies, so we don't want to just get Wallabies back. We want to create our own, and Nick's an important part of doing that. So I think we can sell it through the list. I think through the fact that we're starting to see the green shoots of recovery, even in some of those poor performances, the Lucan Tuis, the Taniela Tupos, the Campbell Magnays, the success we had in the 20s. I think the 20s program, I think there's enough there to be confident about moving forward over the next couple of years that we can turn this around. We've identified the problems. We've now just got to remedy them.
Nick, just on that too, how important is the youth guys that are coming through? How important are they to your plan for next year?
Oh, massively. You reflect on 2016 and obviously extremely disappointing with results, but one thing we did achieve out of 2016, you saw Nick Frisbee and Samu Krevi progress into being a Wallaby. Daniel mentioned we've got to have Wallabies to win championships, but then you saw the development of those younger players come through. They got game time. And it was tough for them because they were playing amongst a lot of young footballers out there. But that experience, on the job, in the games, is going to be vital for them moving forward into 2017. They know the intensity that you've got to play at. The Chiefs game in particular, the disappointing loss, but to play against such a quality side like that and experience the intensity in a game like that is something that it's invaluable, and they'll take that forward and drive their training standards into 2017.
Well, you signed Damien McKenzie.
Do you know something we don't?
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm grateful for you coming down. As I said earlier, we're going to have a vision opportunity out on the deck with Nick. Daniel, thanks for your time. And if you have any questions tonight, here afterwards. Thank you.
Handshake.
Handshake for the cameras, please.
Mhm.
If you can, maybe if you stand up as well.
Mhm.
Oh.